Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. And thanks for joining, I believe, the 18th edition of the Business Law Weekly. And as you know, the Business Law Weekly is an opportunity, weekly webinar series that we've been hosting on a variety of topics. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome lady who has many titles, but today, for the purpose of our discussion, a past chair of the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law, Mrs. Mfon Usoro. Thank you, Mrs. Usoro, for joining us. And today we're really going to be, what we're trying to do is to walk in the path of Mrs. Usoro, trying to understand her career choices, and how she got to be where she is today. And hopefully some of us can take some lessons from that and walk in that path. So, Ms. Usoro, welcome, and thank you for joining us at the Business Law Weekly today.
Thank you very much, my chairman. I'm happy to be here. And thank you again, all the executives, for inviting me. I have to thank you for sustaining this webinar.
Thank you, Ma. I think it's one of those things that the committees have developed the capacity and certainly keep rolling out all these editions. So today we have a 1 hour chat with you, Mrs. Usoro, and let me start off with first the fact that law was not your first degree. I understand that you studied sociology at the University of Calabar. Some people will ask, why did you go to law? What motivated you? What inspired you to then go for a second degree and study law?
I would say that law was my first desire, my first love. But I had to study sociology because at the time, law was not offered in University of Calabar. And I come from a very, very conservative home. At that time, my parents didn't think or wouldn't allow me go to a university outside of our home in Calabar. So yes, I did the sociology and thereafter studied law. This time not in Calabar though, very far away from Calabar.
Apparently the volume is low. I will try to speak up. So sociology, but law was the first passion.
Yes.
Why was that the case? What inspired you to be interested in law and legal practice?
Yeah, originally, before I then had the opportunity to do the law.
That's right.
I haven't really thought very deeply about it, but I would say now as an adult, it must have been tailored by my experience, my growing up experience. And that is a experience that some of us middle children experience, where we have to fight for our cause. We have to make arguments. We have to force everybody to recognize us, the middle children. You know how it is, especially in a setup where, like in our case, the first child was a girl. They expected a boy, and then a girl came and we were so happy. So naturally, they expected this next child to be a boy. And the next child, lo and behold, became a girl. That is me, the second child. And after me, the almighty male came. So there I was, the first child girl having all the attention, and then the much expected boy coming in after me. So I'd always had to struggle to earn my own recognition and place in the family. So I think that must have put me in the frame of mind to have to study law, I would say.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I guess that's an interesting position.
Perspective.
Yes. But I am unfortunately didn't have that privilege of being a middle child. So
You're the lucky one.
I,
Dear.
and so you went out, you studied law. I understand University of Buckingham.
Right.
What was that experience like? Studying law, was it what you expected it to be?
It was what I expected it to be and more. It was more interesting because at that time I went as a mature student. I had I got married, I had children, and then went back to pursue what had always been my passion. So as a mature student with children, it was difficult in the sense of the pressure to be a mother, take children to the school and do all of those things that a mother of growing children had to do, and then also facing the studies. But on another hand, I had an advantage because I was more stable to concentrate in my studies and do well than the distractions that we had experienced in our first degree.
Yeah. Distraction from university.
Yes.
I certainly can attest to those distractions.
I know how it is. So it was good, and we had good lecturers, very good lecturers, and the courses that we had then were very, very important courses. So, and you know, mine was in the UK, so it's very similar to the system that we have in Nigeria. I enjoyed it.
And was there a favorite subject of yours when you were in university?
Yes. I had several favorite subjects.
Not maritime.
No. You don't do maritime as first degree in law. The ones that we had to learn about the fathers of social thoughts, which I had learned in my sociology, but we call it jurisprudence in law. I absolutely enjoyed and understood it even more, having to study them again the second time. I did enjoy contracts, and which other one? I think I did something on European law as well. But yes, I chose good courses.
I have to say that you're the first person that I've heard that enjoyed jurisprudence as a law student.
You're kidding.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, it was not my experience.
I absolutely did. I absolutely did. And you know, jurisprudence leads you not just through your student SB, but through your career in understanding the different stages of society and understanding people and explaining the phenomenon and concepts that we see today in our adult life. So it's a good course. People should not be afraid of taking jurisprudence. Get into the mind of the great thinkers. Yes. And it was so exciting when we are able to grasp it and understand the concepts. That alone was very fulfilling, right from my first degree and also in law.
And so clearly sociology, your having studied sociology was very helpful to you in studying law as well. Did you find that it was helpful in the practice of law?
I think sociology is very good as a foundational course. Because in sociology, you study about human beings, you study about how society evolved, you study aspects of psychology, group behavior, socialization from childhood. I've just explained how my upbringing may have shaped my aggressive, what people call, in quotes, aggressive attitude as I today. Those are sociology kind of thinking. So yes, it has helped in my interaction with people generally and being able to explain away situations. It can fit in as a foundational course for any subject, any area of expertise. So I encourage people to study it. I wouldn't do it as an area of specialization. Really, you have to be in the academia or in the research to say sociology is their area of specialization, but as a foundational degree, it's absolutely very important and useful.
So, University of Buckingham, law school, what was that experience like? This was in Lagos.
Law school.
Yeah. So what was that experience? What was your law school experience?
Law school was tough. It was tough again, having to combine having my role as a mother. I would do school runs, attend classes in law school, work. Because mind you, I studied law as a mature student. So I knew I had a gap of at least 8 years. My peers had already graduated, those who did law as their first degree. So my determination was to bridge that gap. And because of that, I was working in a law firm as while I was doing my law school, so that I can gather enough and sufficient knowledge about the practice of law, and wouldn't have to start as a fresher post-law school. That practice in the law firm was very useful to me also in the things that we learned in law school, even in my examinations.
And,
yes.
and what law firm were you working with at that time?
Internet is misbehaving. I didn't get that.
Well, I'm sorry. I said, what law firm were you working with at the time during law school? Is it my connection?
I don't think it's from the.
Mrs. Usoro, can you hear me now? Whilst we're waiting for Mrs. Usoro to put up connection, again, I'd like to welcome everybody that has just joined us. This is a fireside chat with Mrs. Usoro, past chair of the section of business law and renowned maritime lawyer. Let me say that you can already put in your questions into the Q&A box. So any question that you have for Mrs. Usoro as we go along this discussion, please feel free to include that in the Q&A box. I may, instead of waiting for the end of the session to take questions and answers, I may take.
Sorry about that. I think this was from my end. The internet, I had to switch to another internet provider.
You are welcome back.
So, Dr. Defula, okay.
Good. You're welcome back, Mr. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So the question I have,
what you say?
You were talking about working in a law firm during law school, and the question was, what law firm was that?
That was Mfon Usoro and Co. Everybody knows I had a pedestal to start on. It was Mfon Usoro and Co. But for my law school attachments, I did that with Udoma Mbelo Sagia.
Okay, with UUBU. So how was, when you were working during this period, what were you doing? What were the things that you were doing in the firm? As well, I would say as an intern.
60 hours.
Mrs. Usoro, can you hear me?
I partially heard you said, what were the things that?
Yes, I was asking what were you doing in the firm whilst you were an intern?
Oh, okay. So I was reviewing. I had already graduated. I was an adult. So even if with that.
sorry, we seem to have dropped connection again. Yes. So, are you back, Mrs. Usoro?
So I am back. I reviewed documents. Like the statements of claim, statement of defense, just reading the files to understand so that I will be able to review. And also on agreements and on the transaction side, then I would join them for meetings, be taking notes, doing the minutes for the meetings, which will be vetted by other senior lawyers. So I generally just pushed myself into anything that was available to do for a non-qualified lawyer, that is.
So I've spoken to quite a number of lawyers, and lots of people they've had this experience of having worked somewhere in a law firm, mostly, and that's contributed to them catching up very, very quickly. So that is a shared experience. It's experience that I myself had when I was in university. I hope you can hear me, Mrs. Usoro. Mrs. Usoro?
You know, when we got onto this, the internet was working just fine, and now I'm having challenges. I missed that. What did you say, please?
No, I was saying that your experience of having worked or working in a law firm whilst in law school or in university was something that many lawyers seem to, certainly I have had that experience, and it's been very helpful for them both in the university life as well as subsequently working as lawyers. So it's helped them sort of bridge the gap. So it's an experience that we've shared. If I may, moving on to, I mean, we all know you now as a renowned maritime lawyer. We've lost Mr. Usoro again. If you bear with me, I'm sure that connection will come up shortly. But as I said, again, feel free to put in any questions that you may have. Any questions you may have for Mrs. Usoro, please put that into the question and answer box. I think Mrs. Usoro is trying to come up now. Just bear with us as that. Mrs. Usoro, can you hear me? I think the connection has dropped out again. We will hang on a bit. Hopefully, have Mrs. Usoro back in time.
I'm going to try using my phone.
Okay.
If this goes up, packs up again, I've changed to another network.
Yeah, I mean, these things happen. I apologize. Mrs. Usoro, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Very clear. Okay. It's clear. So let me talk about what we know you as. You are one of the leading maritime lawyers in Nigeria. How did that come about? How did you... Ma'am, can you hear me? Hello, ma'am.
No. Yeah,
So I was asking about your how you came about to be to specialize.
I hear you in and out.
Okay, so I said, how did you come about to specialize in maritime law?
Oh, okay. Are you hearing me first of all?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, so through going to court, that is after law school, going to court with my seniors in the law firm, I got particularly interested in shipping law cases. And that kind of also reminded me of the kind of work that my father was doing in UAC then, which had to deal with imports and exports and warehousing in the ports, et cetera, et cetera. So I found that very captivating. And in assigned to do the background research. And it was at that time discovered knowledge subject matter to reduce the load of work or the time wasted. So that is how it started. Also, at the time, my partner had specialized in communication and was emphasizing that everybody should find out where their interest is, that they can also specialize. So my thinking then was, since I found shipping cases interesting, I will go in to have a specialized degree in maritime laws. So that is how we started, and I had to leave again to University College London to do a master's in maritime laws.
Okay, very interesting. So it's interesting that your dad's job at the UAC kind of had, because you obviously you have been engaging in discussions with him about what he did, and that influenced in a way, not directly, but in your subconscious influenced your interest in maritime law. So you went to UCL, studied, did your master's in maritime law, and then came back to practice maritime law. What was that like? Maritime, taking up that mantle in the law firm.
Yes, so the law firm was not there were generalists and of course in telecommunications law. So I had to develop that into a department. It was big.
The sound seems to be coming in and out. Mrs. Usoro, you were talking about developing it into a department.
So, are you hearing me, Dr. Adefolu?
Yes. So the part that we heard last was when you talked about developing it into a department.
Yes, developing it into a department.
Yes.
Okay. I had to, because there were very few maritime lawyers at the time, it was difficult, but not too difficult to get clients who were interested in a lawyer that will be quick in identifying the problem, that will be quick in identifying the issues, and giving them quick in identifying the issues. So, in developing into a practice, I had to look for areas in the maritime law that I can quickly make up.
If I may, I think we have two connections on. So one needs to be off the audio because there's a
yes. We have to now because of this interference. I had to use another device.
Yes.
Okay.
you were saying clients who were looking for lawyers who identify issues.
Exactly, and could give quick solutions and without wasting too much time or doing trial and error. So I was able to make a breakthrough. Some of our existing clients had aspects of their work that was in transportation. So in capitalizing on the clients that we had and also making a breakthrough, I was able to get clients that were new clients and a couple of lawyers who were also interested in that aspect of the law to join me in building up that department. So then it was maritime and environment law. We also noticed that there was a gap in service delivery to government agencies that are focused in transportation and maritime law. So we pitched to those agencies and also brought them in as clients. And then the department developed and PUC started being known as the law firm that offers services in maritime laws.
I mean, thank you, ma'am. You said a few things that was very important for business development. One of the first things you were doing cross-selling. So you started with existing clients of the firm and selling to them services that they perhaps may not have been using PUC for. And then after that, with successes from those clients, you were able to then grow a new book of clients and also identifying, I think, a gap in servicing government agencies who focus on the transportation area. And I just want to touch on that a little. I heard somewhere that you had, and I want to confirm this, a 20 million naira bill outstanding from a government agency. Have they paid you that bill?
Oh my gosh. You read everything, don't you? No, they haven't paid and I haven't pursued it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the challenges I think some of us have had working with government agencies.
Yes, we do have that.
But so, if you tell me, can you paint the scene what the legal community or environment was like when you started this area of specialization? What was practice like? Who were your competitors? And what was your relationship with those competitors at the time?
The legal environment was welcoming. There were prospects because our economy then was also booming and shipping law reacts to the state of the economy. When the economy is buoyant, there's a lot of international trade, exports and imports, and clients definitely, companies involved in that to advise them on the charter parties that's concerned about the ships that they want to use for exporting or importing their product, and for companies who want to purchase ships, they will need lawyers. And for banks who are engaged as lenders to their customers who are interested in expanding their shipping business, they will need lawyers. Whether it is purchase of an old vessel or a new vessel, all of those ones for them. So yes, the legal environment was welcoming. Few of us who were specialized in maritime law practice, but there was no law firm that could concentrate only on shipping practice. It just wasn't that robust to sustain exclusively a law firm. So all of us were doing other things to keep the law firms afloat, and it was engaging. My relationship with my competitors was very good, where we have a very strong, well-organized association, Nigerian Maritime Association, which is the national chapter, the Comité Maritime International. That is the international one, and they have national chapters in countries. Collaborating with each other. When you need assistance, you can call your colleague. Sometimes even senior colleagues to me will send in their papers for me to review. If I, prior to when we purchased our foreign law reports, if I need a law report, I will call any of my senior colleagues. I'm coming to your firm to photocopy, and they say, "Oh, don't worry, I will send it to you." So yes, it was collegiate, very, very largely so. But apart from even the strictly maritime practice, generally, we were friendly with, and it is the ethos of our firm to be friendly with competing law firms, even if we are working for clients that are outside. So we've always had our practice principle. The relationships are very good.
Good. I mean, thank you. I think that's a really important point for us to note for younger lawyers, even for more senior lawyers working in colleagues is really, really important. If I may ask, has the environment changed, since you started practice up to date? Do you think that have you noticed a change in the environment in terms of, have we lost Mrs. Usoro? Just want to check. Rex, is Mrs. Usoro still?
Yes, she's still here.
Hello, ma'am. We can't hear you.
I'm using another device now.
Okay.
I heard you. Yes. It does appear that it has changed slightly, not much, slightly. And the area that it has changed is that we are better known we have sharpened our skills. The level and standard of service delivery has greatly improved. Law firms have devoted a lot to manpower development so that we have teams that are based in different of the law that firms focus on. So firms now can very comfortably compete with law firms anywhere. So there's significant progress. There's significant progress in that regard. There's also a very acute sense of competition. Perhaps for whatever reason, there's some bit of undercutting when we are quoting for services, quoting when there's a request to quote for fees, and in order to get something for your firm, some people undercut, but that is not a major issue. But in terms of change, I think largely very positive.
I mean, thank you. I really want to take you up on that point about, in particular, around competition with other firms. I mean, one of the areas that I also know that you have a pet area of research or pet area of discussion is this globalization of law firms. India has recently introduced some measure of allowing foreign law firms to practice. There's been a lot of discussion about doing that in Nigeria formally, although we also know that informally there's quite a lot of fly out, and now with the work from home, or with the digitization of legal practice, it's you don't need to fly to actually provide the service. And I'd just like you to talk a little bit about where you see the globalization of legal services going, where we as Nigerian lawyers should be playing our role, and particularly what we should be doing regarding providing legal services on the continent. I hope that's not too much in one question.
No. That's fine. The trend has moved because of globalization. We cannot but adjust to the reality of legal practice now. Even with the environment of digital services that you're talking about, that used to happen, and by emails, what is the strict cross-border services. But even so, there are situations where the client, the foreign company, wants their lawyer, who is the foreign lawyer, close to the jurisdiction that they are working. And there are occasions like that that we need to be nimble and adjust to. But issues arise. There's the aspect of AFCFTA where the goal is to have a free market, borderless market. The issues, therefore, for us is how do we participate, both as exporter of legal service, which some of us do, and as importer of legal services, which is the place that we are largely. How do we participate in that market without hurting the growth and development of Nigerian law firms? But at least we have moved from that place where we were, no, it can never happen, we shouldn't, to now trying to design a way that will make it profitable for all of us. Yes, India was one of the major developing countries that did not open their jurisdiction for legal services to foreign lawyers, but now they have. But before they got there, the country was prepared in the sense that everybody now, most Western countries want to do business in India. They are looking up to India as the next major economy after China. So the Indian economy has risen to the level that they can dictate their terms. That's one. Two, the rules that govern legal practice in India has also evolved to the level that they can, and they have the comfort that they can allow a certain degree of inroads from foreign counsel without impacting negatively Indian law firms. And they also have the institutions that will enforce those rules. That is where we are this time in Nigeria. You have mentioned very rightly that some law firms are collaborating with foreign law firms, but who is it? Which institution is monitoring to see that the collaboration, whether it is within the very limited rules that we have now? The rules we have now are rules of what we will say ancient rules that cannot cater for the current environments in legal services. So we now have to actively develop institutions and rules that will allow the participation of foreign lawyers in Nigerian legal services in some fashion that will be hand in hand of Nigerian law firms. We don't have that institution. There's no, we don't have the rules, first of all. We also do not have the institution that monitor and enforce or ask questions, or that we are mandatorily required to report our collaborations, what we earn, the type of legal work that we do with foreign law firms. So there's work for us to do. very urgently.
I mean, I hear you, Mrs. Usoro. So, talking about the Indian experience, I mean, you just emphasized that even the bargaining power of the economy, for the Indian economy. I mean, I read somewhere just today that India is probably going to be the fourth largest in terms of GDP by 2024. So clearly, there's a lot of interest in the Indian economy, but they also have the bargaining power to decide who they welcome, and they've set their rules themselves. And so I guess we as NBA and with larger NBA body should be looking at really clarifying how we want this to play, so that the rules of the game are not foisted upon us. We actually have the mandate to create and to amend those rules in accordance with how we like to play. So really important. So let me. We definitely have to talk about SBL and your role in SBL, how that started and your involvement in that. But before we come to SBL, Mrs. Usoro, you've been involved in so many advocacy projects, legislation, advocacy, law reform, etc. What was driving that? Why were you so keen to be involved in these law reform projects? And what has been the outcome of some of the things that you've been involved in?
Again, like I said, I had a pedestal to start with, and our principal, Paul Usoro, had already done some legislative drafting work, but I studied on the sideline and by myself, not to a formal school, what needs to be done to understand and be able to be a good draft person. So that is how my journey in legislative drafting started. And in my advocacy in maritime work, there were lots of gaps in terms of legislation that we required, which I pitched to our clients, the Ministry, Federal Ministry of Transportation, and the parastatals under the Ministry of Transportation. My involvement, very, very active involvement in the Nigerian Maritime Law Association. When we have seminars, conferences, and it is highlighted the gaps in legal framework. So I listen, and then I take it up and go to the clients that, yes, this was mentioned and this was mentioned, so perhaps we should do something about it. So we will be given the brief to work on them. That is how come that we have done quite a lot. In my department, Mr. Usoro does his own in his own area with others. In my department, we have done quite a lot of legislative advocacy and drafting for government agencies and the federal ministries. So it became something that I was adept at and which I enjoy very much. I think the internet is reasonably stable now. Maybe the admin can start my video.
Yes. Yes. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, and I do like not just talking about inadequacies. I like to do something about those inadequacies. So I push myself in to say we can do something about this. We can develop and enact, get the National Assembly to enact a law to provide for those gaps that were identified. And there you go. So I get those briefs and pursue them. There are still some that have not yet been enacted because of political considerations, but we don't give up. We keep reminding them. The country needs this, the industry needs this, and the work has been done. Get on with it.
I mean, thank you for that. It's one of our mandates, certainly in SBL, to get more involved in legislative advocacy, and we certainly see many gaps in various areas of the economy as well. To close out this particular part of the discussion, I would like to ask, May 29th, there is going to be a new government in place. If you can tell us one or two priorities you think for the maritime sector in terms of either legislative reform or regulatory reform that government should be focusing on resolving?
Yes, on the area of shipping practice generally, what we would like to continue to see, but in a more aggressive manner, is the development of more ports in Nigeria. Right now, the distances from where the ports are located to other parts of Nigeria is so much that it makes production costs very high. That challenges our competitiveness with other countries. Nigeria is so huge that we require more ports, and we think, and that's what the industry has been talking about, and we will also continue to push that. Happily, we are involved in the Akwa Ibom initiative in the development of a deep sea port. So yes, that should be and will be one of the priorities. There's a document that I took the lead in developing, which is the National Transport Policy. Policy instruments are essential because it guides the development of that sector. And that is the same, it applies equally to transportation generally in Nigeria, especially now that we're talking about integrated transport system, where multimodalism is the modern way of transportation. And logistics, a lot of emphasis in logistics. One company providing from to door. We need to have that policy issued by the federal government, Federal Executive Council. The work had been done, completed. It was a multi-sectoral committee, which I had the privilege of heading. So that will be a focus. And on our Merchant Shipping Act, which we revised in 2007, there are certain key areas that were not provided for, such as laws governing bill of lading, because the 2007 Merchant Shipping Act had the one that was 1855. That's what we had been operating on. So when the 2007 Merchant Shipping Act was enacted, that was sent out because it was really updated. So there's a vacuum now on the law that governs bill of lading. And you know, bills of lading are the crucial transport documents for imports and exports. So right now, there's that's a confusion on which law to follow. So we fall back to common law since we do not have now a statute. Yes, a statute governing the bill of lading. Those are, I think, the main three areas that, given the opportunity to speak to the people in power, we will direct the attention in the area of shipping and transportation law.
Fantastic. Well, the Maritime Committee will certainly be, I'm sure the members are here and they're listening, and we will make sure that we focus on those three priorities. And at our conference, which is in July 5th to 7th, we are definitely going to be discussing transportation, and these three points that you've mentioned. We'll make sure that we weave it into the conversation around transportation, because what we are talking about is what the business landscape should look like for what should be the priorities of the government. So we've noted these priorities, and now the
That's
conversation.
very important, if I may chip in. If I may chip in, Chairman, that is
Yes.
very, very important, because if we had any doubt about how crucial it is to have a well-oiled, efficiently run logistics system, COVID made it obvious. And certain companies, industries are still suffering today on the logistics bottleneck. So it will be a topical issue for us to trash out at the level of the SBL.
Thank you very much. And we will look at the conference planners, they're all here. We will look forward to, sort of making that topic more robust for discussion. And speaking about the SBL, we will come to the part of, your role in the SBL, and I can see that the founding chair of the SBL is actually here, is listening in to the conversation. Mr. George Tomi is welcome. So tell me, how did you get involved in the SBL?
How did I actually remember how I got involved, but I've always, we do a lot of in PUC. So it's been a long who started SBL, which of the presidents started the SBL, but at the time of what's his name again now, the Attorney General that really now set up the SBL that is still functioning, Biojo, yes, SAN, Biojo SAN. I was among the founding members. He invited us to participate and to support George. If we're going to talk about mentoring, which we haven't talked about, George has been my mentor. And so I got very interested, not just interested, very actively involved, which is something I tell my juniors. When you are involved in something, put in your all, because you never know who is watching. You never know who gets impressed by what you do and then decides to give you additional responsibility, which is the case with myself and Mr. George Itomi, who obviously saw how passionate I was and involved. That is how we were invited.
We lost you for a little bit towards the end of that part, but let me talk about. So, ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, excellent, and I can hear you now.
I hear you. I hear you. Did you hear me talk about George being my mentor? And also how juniors should be passionate and work hard when given assignments. Yeah?
Yes. Yes, I heard that.
So,
very, very clear.
So that is how it started. And I grew into it, doing everything, including even giving people mics to speak. Yeah. Until I grew in the association to become the chair. Yes.
So you started from from the ground up, and was involved in everything. Can you talk a little bit, because it would be useful, because lots of people here are members of SBL, some of them volunteer in SBL, but it would be useful to hear about some of the things, some of the roles that you played, and how it kind of evolved over the years as well.
Okay, so it starts with getting involved in committees, to volunteer to be in committees and not wait to be asked. I volunteered, I always put myself out there as available. And when you get into the committees, you need to make a choice whether you're going to be a floor member or be in the leadership track. So I made a conscious effort to work towards being the leader or among the executives of the committees that I was interested in, and in the general SBL as a whole. So I was doing a lot of committee work. And in addition to the committee work, I was speaking this is something we must not shy away from, because we have the tools to conduct research. And by conducting research, you are able to speak intelligently. Your people will notice, the clients, the business community that come to SBL conferences will notice, and you exchange cards. From there, you get invited to speak at other places. And from there, you have briefs as well. So from speaking, getting involved in committees, and then being invited by Josh to be in the conference organizing committee, and then taking that opportunity as a very, very great opportunity. I worked very hard in all the conference planning committees that I was in, to the level that the executives of the SBL then entrusted me with the task of chairing a conference planning committee, from just being ordinary member to active to now chairing the conference planning committee. And then when George's term expired, it was a natural consequence, natural progress from everybody, all the big men of SBL that had meetings there, that I should succeed George. So I became the chair of SBL.
Wonderful. So volunteering, I've picked up that
Yes.
volunteering, getting involved in committee work, actively looking for opportunities to speak, which not only enhances your SBL career, but also enhances your career as a lawyer anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then the conference organizing committee, so thank you for that. There are a few questions that I want to make sure I get to them. We apparently only have 3 minutes, and I'm going to use my gavel as the chair to extend it by a little bit. This one is a question from an anonymous attendee. The young lawyer with 2 years post-qualification experience, and they wanted to know whether it was advisable to start having a niche now, or to wait until they are more focused and experienced in perhaps 10 years.
Sorry, whether it was advisable to do what?
To start having a niche for themselves now. They're just 2 years post-qualification experience, or should they wait for some time till maybe they're 10 years post-qualified to carve their niche? That was the first question. There is another.
Let me take that.
Okay,
let me take one by one. Yes. I think it is advisable to start now. When one waits till you're about 5-10 years at the bar, so many things would have happened within that time in your life that you may not be able to pursue that passion that you had. And within that time, your grade or utility value in the firm may not be optimized. If you were an expert in an area that the firm wants to grow or the firm requires, because that is a very quick path to becoming a partner in a law firm, when you are able to distinguish yourself, that you have something that the firm requires and needs. You're in the fast track career path. So I would advise any young person now to analyze and search themselves and find out the area that they have passion for, plus the area that is has business prospects, and go in to specialize. You will have enough time when you come back to do the general practice anyway, but it's good to specialize as soon as possible.
Thank you. So specialization is critical. Start looking at that now. I'd like to ask if it kind of a follow-on question to that, and I've heard this from other lawyers, which is, I'm in a firm, I'm interested in an area of law, but my firm doesn't specialize or doesn't offer that area of law. What should I be doing?
It's an area of law that you're interested in, you have expertise, the firm doesn't. practices. So there are two things you can do. You can challenge yourself and present a business case to the seniors, to the partners in the firm, that this is an area that you think is marketable, can bring custom to the law firm, and that you can handle. And I think we should really encourage our young ones in the law firms to be able to do that. If it is an area that you can make a business case for, I am very sure that the partners will say, please go ahead. What do you need? What are the tools that you need? So one can do that. Another thing that one can do is to continue to broaden and sharpen and refresh your knowledge in that area until opportunity comes up. And that is by, again, doing research, writing, speaking on the subject matter, so that you are current in what is happening in that area. But most of all, like when I started the maritime and environment practice, it was non-existent. You need to convince, make a business. That is one thing we should do. Law firms outside of Nigeria, they require lawyers to write a business case, like a business plan that we'd write for clients if they want to grow up to grow to a partnership level. They do a business case that convinces the firm of how valuable they are or they can be.
So, I mean, I think that's a really important point, Mrs. Usoro. So, understanding, knowing how to make a business case means that you need to know what the business of the firm needs. And so as a young lawyer, building up yourself in the business area, I think is really critical. And we just ran, I think that closed yesterday, something about accounting for finance for lawyers as well. So that's a program that the SBL will continue to run. We had a training for it, 2-day training. I think that was useful for many people. But developing that business skill is also as important as developing your skill as a lawyer as well. So there's another question here, which is, do you think Nigeria really needs a national shipping carrier? Mrs. Usoro, I think you're on mute. Yes. Mrs. Usoro?
A national shipping what? Does Nigeria need a national shipping what?
National
I didn't get the
shipping
final
carrier,
part of it.
just like the national.
Yes,
yes.
I see. Oh, okay. So what's the gentleman is asking? You know, a carrier is a ship. So
yes.
If the question is whether Nigeria needs a fleet of ships that is owned by Nigeria, there are two things about need. Nigeria needs to have ships that are registered in Nigeria, that flies Nigeria's flag. So is there a need? Yes. But the other issue now is ownership. Should it be owned and operated by the federal government? No. Because as we know, government, not like government in China, because they have proved to us that government can be profitable, the Chinese people, but government generally are not good in running businesses in Nigeria. In particular reference to running the shipping business, we know that that experiment had been done in the past. Nigeria owned about 19 in a fleet by the national shipping line at the time of Obasanjo, and all of them disappeared.
The first time
yes.
of Obasanjo.
Yes, the first Obasanjo. Yes. By the time he came back, the thing had disappeared. There were no ships and there was no national shipping line. So we had experimented with that and it didn't work because government business is nobody's business. It was not operated with commercial principles in mind. So it's not a good idea for it to be owned by Nigeria. but Nigeria can support the private sector to acquire ships that can compete in international trade, not just coastal shipping, but actually going on the international shipping routes. I hope that answers that question.
Yes, yes, definitely. So no to a national shipping line, but encourage a Nigerian private sector
entrepreneurs, yes,
to participate in international trade. One more question here. Being a woman of many firsts, this is from Esther Samuel Umoika. Can Mrs. Usoro share her experience on how she's handled leadership roles in male-dominated areas of her career?
Oh my God. I think it starts with understanding oneself and admitting to oneself what one wants. If one wants to be a leader and has the makeup of a leader, then we have to understand our terrain and devise a way to get to that position of leadership. It is not easy for women to emerge as leaders of men, but it is not impossible. We have several women who are leaders in their field, leading hundreds of men, so I look up to them as my role models and try to emulate and navigate the waters the way they do. So in a day-to-day kind of life is to be firm, but not disrespectful, to be polite and let everybody understand what they have to do, and then to lead by example, knowing that you do not want to make excuses because you're a woman. You want the people that you're leading to follow your example. And the men will follow your example if you prove yourself to be a good leader that is very hardworking and that is not discriminatory and gives them the opportunity. There will be challenges. I cannot say there will be no challenges because, you know, there are some men that are so steeped in tradition that, is it tradition or their upbringing, where perhaps the father was abusing the mother and they are unable to respect women so themselves. There will be occasions where one has to be very decisive in dealing with men like that. So we do have those challenges, but the other challenges is when I say we should set examples, it means you have to really stretch yourself. And part of that is that because in our society, we're expected to get married. For the young unmarried women, it is good for them to let their husbands know that they are born leaders and they will not pretend that it is not their desire to become leaders in order to make the man love you more. Because that desire will come up after marriage and then the young man will say, this is not the you I knew. Whereas it was always you to push yourself and to be a leader. So while looking or dating, it is good to be truthful to ourselves. And post-marriage, having laid that foundation, it's easy to remind the husband when he becomes or tries to become a stumbling block. Hey, this is who I am. You know that this is what I wanted. You agreed. But even so, we have to be flexible. While we are bosses in the workplace, we have by choice agreed to be bossed by somebody else. So we show that flexibility in our personal lives, because when that personal life is settled and you have the support, it will be easier for us to take that leadership role outside of the house. But it is doable, and we should always look up to those women who have navigated that path as a model.
Thank you very much, Mrs. So it is definitely doable, and you have been doing it all this year. So thank you for your leadership, certainly in this area and in many areas. Last question from the audience for you is, what are the key things that a lawyer should do, young lawyer should do to decide on a career path, particularly when there is no serious passion for any specific area. So they want to specialize, but they don't have a passion for any area. So what should they do to be able to uncover their passion?
Indeed. That is a tough one. If, yes, after law school, because we study everything in the university and some of the young ones are really still not mature in age. So one can understand they're not knowing which area to go to. That is why it is also, when they get involved into a law firm, it is good for them not to stay in one department. Perhaps it's good for them to request to be attached to another department after a certain number of months, so that they can go around the different practice area to really see which area that they have passion for. So if at the end of the day, they do not see any area that they have passion for, which is going to be very rare, it is not mandatory that one must go and specialize in an area of law. One can still become very effective and useful to the law firm, like the course in finance for lawyers. Law is a business. It's a business. So if the lawyer wants to be a generalist, he could be a generalist also that is very committed and very passionate about the law firm. And along the line, he might be interested in administration. You never know. And it is, I think it's the best thing if it's a lawyer evolves to become the administrator in a law firm, because then he would have known and understood the rigors of core legal practice, and the lawyers will respect that type of person, and then he might still rise up, because some law firms also have a career path for those who are administrators in the law firm to become partners in the firm. But the likelihood of not having a passion for something is very slim. What needs to be done is to expose yourself to the different areas that are available. Definitely you zero in into one or two, but don't box yourself now, and I don't think you do not have any passion. What might happen is that you have not seen all. So you open your eyes, open yourself and explore. Keep exploring, you zero in on something that you like.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Usoro. There are so many areas we could talk about, so many other things that we could touch on. We haven't talked about managing a legal practice and all the things associated with that. We haven't talked about in detail about mentorship. So what that means is that this conversation has to happen again. So thank you very much. But before we close out the day, I'd just like you to give us a word for young lawyers, people who are starting practice. What are 2 or 3 things that you just like to leave them with for us to take away and grasp from this discussion today?
One
word for SBL as well.
That's where I was going to start. I said one, and the first thing is join SBL.
Fantastic.
Join SBL. In SBL, we have lawyers in transaction, we have lawyers in litigation. So there's no reason to say, no, let me join SLP and not SBL. Join SBL. That is where you have the best exposure, especially in today's world where legal practice is very, very competitive. That's where you're talking about exposure to know about the different aspects of practice. It is SBL that will give one the best exposure and the best training, with due respect to my colleagues in other sections. So that is one. Number 2 is to be patient. Patience in the sense that the financial remuneration might not be what you aspire for. So that on its own should not be the reason for you to run away from legal practice or to be jumping from one firm to another, because that also impacts on how the law firm regards those type of hires. If they are moving in a very fast way, like the people in IT, one understands about IT that they really stay in one spot, but lawyers, it doesn't look very good in our resume. So be patient because the financials will come in later as you grow in the law firm and make use of the opportunities that are there. So that's number 2. Number 3 is that law is still a profession for gentlemen, a profession for ladies. We have to carry ourselves as lawyers. In our dressing, in our attitude, we are of the noble profession. We must always distinguish ourselves in the way we carry ourselves, because it is, you are a lawyer, you are not a merchant. And even as we do dress down on Fridays, it doesn't mean that you should dress as if you're going to a labor market, because you may be called to attend a meeting with a client, or a client may come into the office. You still have to be a lawyer. So please be faithful to the legal practice and ethical. Be an ethical lawyer. Never mind that we don't have institutions that enforce the ethics as much as they should, but the ethics that you have personally works for you, because the judges themselves also observe lawyers who are ethical, who do not try to deceive the courts, and they will take whatever you tell them to be the gospel truth, because they know you have a reputation of not deceiving the court, making excuses. So be ethical and be noble in your personal life and in your public life as lawyers. You said 3. I think I've exceeded 3.
No, this is fantastic. So thank you so much, Mrs. Usoro. This was excellent discourse.
I'm so sorry about my video.
No. These things happen. It was a real pleasure chatting with you. The SBL is lucky to have had you as one of our leaders, and we will continue to call on you in our various conversations, in various discussions. We're holding on to some of those things that you said around priorities for Nigeria regarding maritime law and shipping, etc. And we will do our best to effect them. So thank you. Thank you to all members of the audience who kind of stayed through this discussion. I can see that many of you contributed and enjoyed being a part of the discussion. We hope to continue these discourses with our past chairs. We'll try to do them at least once a month. Try to get them involved. Next week, we're going to have a business discussion around business development. And I don't know if the team has the flyer in the background. If they don't, it will be sent to you shortly. So again, left to me to say thank you to Mrs. Usoro, thank you to members of the audience, and we look forward to you getting involved in our Business Law Weekly. As Mrs. Usoro said, join the SBL. So if you haven't paid your dues, if you haven't joined the committee, if you haven't volunteered, these are all the things that Mrs. Usoro has encouraged you to do. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. So the Business Development Greatest Hits, we'll hold that next week, and the email for that will be sent out. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Usoro.
Thank you very much, my chair, Dr. Defulu. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, my chair, Judge, for attending.
Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye. Thank you.